the story girl, and welcome to the story of Caspearl and the Princess. Caspearl was a woodcutter just like his father before him. He knew the forest, and he loved the smell of the trees just after a storm, and he brought wood to all the people in the village, who gave him food and clothes and shoes in return, and they all thought he was a handsome chap, and they wondered why he insisted in living in that broken down little cottage in the woods. "You can come live in the village with us," said the villagers. "You don't have to stay in that moldy old forest." "Thank you kindly," he said every single time anybody mentioned this to him. "But my cottage is just fine. It is good enough for me." But you see, Caspearl knew something about the forest and knew something about the woods that the people in the village didn't know. That in the very center of the woods rose a tall mountain, and at the very top of this mountain there was a beautiful castle with gardens and fountains, and with a gigantic monster at the gates with drool and red eyes staring out. Of course, the monster was frightful to behold, but living inside of the castle, Caspearl knew was a beautiful maiden, a princess, and sometimes in the evening he would peek his head out from behind a tree just to get a glimpse of this beautiful maiden, this princess, walking in her gardens. Well, Caspearl did not know this, but this princess had been alive at the top of that mountain for hundreds of years. Hundreds of years. And why was she at the top of that mountain, you ask? And why the monster? Well, this beautiful princess had once been courted by a magician who liked the way she looked, but liked the way her kingdom and her fortune looked better. But she knew where his heart was, and it was not with her, and she would not agree to marry him, no matter how powerful he was. At this rejection, the magician turned red hot with anger, and with his last bit of potent magic, he made the land around her castle grow into a tall mountain. A mountain with such thick thorns and bushes all around. There was only one path to the top. "You reject me. Well, you will be rejected by men. You will live here at the top of your little mountain forever, until there comes a man who loves you enough to come and fetch you down. Well, it won't be easy for him. You see, I have built a wall that goes all the way around the mountain, and there's only one gate. That gate was so heavy that no matter how hard you pulled, you could only open it a few inches at a time. Oh, and did I mention the tree growing right in the middle of the path? It was true. There was an enormous oak, so wide that you couldn't see the edges from side to side. And he placed the wicked-looking monster right at the gate. Only the man who loves you enough to overcome these 3 obstacles will be able to bring you down from this mountain so that you may continue a normal life. But nobody will. Not for you. Not for you. And the magician disappeared, never to be seen again. Well, men did come, kings, princes, dukes, knights, all to try and see if they could rescue the beautiful princess. But they all also had their eye on her beautiful palace full of gold and jewels and precious things. It would be an easy way to get a leg up in the kingdom business, thought all of these men. And so they came. They came with large entourages, with trumpets. They came with long flowing capes. They came with jewel encrusted axes. But so far, none of them had been able to get past the gate. They would pull and pull and pull with all of their might. But after they had pulled for 5 minutes, half an hour at most, they'd realized that there were easier princesses to rescue and would go off to find one of them. Caspearl had seen some of these princes come. He watched them pull and pull and pull. He watched them give up, cursing, throwing their axe to the wind, and stomping away with their entourage. Most of the time, the princess didn't pay any of these people any mind. But every once in a while, Caspearl saw her looking down from her garden, watching. She must be so lonely, he thought. Only I were a princess. I would rescue her. I would bring her down from that lonely, solitary life. I would do it if I could. One day, Caspearl was watching the princess when he noticed a prince coming up to the gate. He might have been a bit stouter than most princes. He might have had less of a flowing cape, and his axe might not have had that many jewels, but Caspearl noticed the princess watching this prince. Caspearl watched the little fat prince. He looked at the princess, and he made up his mind. Even if it was this prince who would get to marry the beautiful princess, he would help him, if only to free the princess from her long prison. Caspearl would work as hard as he could. And so he lifted up his old iron axe that had belonged to his father and now belonged to him, and strode up to the prince, who was pulling and pulling and about to give up on the gate. "Hello there," said Caspearl to the fat prince. "Ah, hello," said the prince, wiping his brow. "I just noticed that you are trying to open this gate. May I help?" said Caspearl. "You want to help?" said the fat prince. He looked Caspearl up and down and saw that he was strong. All those years of chopping and hauling wood had made Caspearl very strong indeed. What Caspearl didn't know, but the prince did, was that no prince was allowed to ask for help with the challenges. But he's offering, thought the prince. And once I am married to the beautiful princess and am rich beyond my wildest dreams, I can have him thrown into the dungeon. Nobody need know that he's the one that was helping me. "Oh, that's very sporting of you," said the fat prince. "Oh, I would like help very much indeed, if you're willing." Caspearl was willing. He grasped the gate in his strong, brawny hands and began to pull. He pulled and pulled and pulled with all of his strength, pulled as hard as he could, pulled until his muscles were burning. What he didn't see was that the prince was not helping at all, but had put his fine cape back on and was sitting and just watching Caspearl pull at this gate. "We'll get there, your highness, we will. We'll get there," said Caspearl, panting, and he just managed to open it wide enough for one fat prince and one lean woodsman to slip through the gates. "Oh, oh, oh," said the prince, wiping his brow, even though he'd done not a thing to help with the gate. "Oh, thank you very much. There's some sort of tree up ahead, I've heard, but before we try the tree, I'm going to try to get up by going around it." And so the prince went off into the thorns and got pricked and scratched very badly before he came back. Nothing to be done. And he picked up his axe and walked toward the tree, the enormous tree. This tree grew so rapidly that the moment that you chopped the tree, it would grow back before you were able to chop it again. You would have to chop very fast and very hard indeed in order to open a space. "Oh, you're a woodsman, aren't you?" said the fat prince. "You should be good at this. On my signal, 1, 2, and Caspearl began to chop at the tree as he'd never chopped at any tree before in his life. Chop, chop, chop! The chops rang throughout the mountain. What Caspearl didn't see is that behind him the fat prince wasn't chopping at all, but instead was laughing to himself and watching as Caspearl was chopping like a maniac, chopping like a machine, chopping, chop, 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 until after a half hour, after an hour, after an hour and a half, he had finally chopped a hole through this gigantic tree, big enough for a fat prince and a lean woodsman to slip through. This time Caspearl noticed that the prince didn't seem to be as tired or as sweaty as him. "Thank you very much for your help," said the fat prince, and the fat prince drew a very long sword out of his sheath. "If you want to watch me slay the monster, I'll be happy to let you. Follow me." And the prince trotted up the path and came to the great hulking monster, which grabbed up the fat prince and blew him away over the trees and the field, and he may still be blowing away at this very moment before turning to Caspearl. Caspearl had no better weapon than his old iron axe, but he lifted this as bravely as he could, ready to face the awful beast, when poof, it disappeared. The gates of the palace were opened, and out stepped the beautiful princess. "My prince," said she, "you have come at last. At last you have come." Caspearl looked around. "If it please your highness, I'm no prince. I'm just the woodsman of the woods just face the mountain. I was helping the prince who just got blown away by the monster. He's the real prince." "No, he's no prince," said the princess. "He didn't do a bit of work to come and free me. It was you who did it all, and you are the man I have been waiting for. I've been watching you, Caspearl. I've been watching you watch me, and hoping that you would try, that you would come up. Oh, not much to look at. I don't have much education. I don't know. Surely you wouldn't want to marry me, but I do." And she brought him into her palace. The two were wed, and, as far as I know, are still living happily at the top of the mountain. The end. I am the story girl, and this story is about a man who loved a princess, but he thought he would never get the chance to marry her. What he really wanted was for her to be free. What you willing to give up for the person or people that you love? Are you willing to give up even the chance of being with them? Remember, you are the main character of your story. Thank you for joining the story today. Bye.